seriously popular.
Welcome everyone to the Friday bonus edition, The Life of You. My guest from Monday, Kimberley Nixon, returns to help me answer some of your questions. This podcast is coming out during OCD Awareness Week, and I had such an amazing chat with Kimberley on Monday about our OCD experiences and intrusive thoughts. Do go back and listen if you haven't already heard it. Although myself and Kimberley have lived experience of OCD, we are not experts. As always, there are some great links in the show notes.
It should never stop you having children and living your life or going for that job. The more you feel it should stop you, the more you should do it.
The Life of You, OCD edition, right after this.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yeah?
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
What is... Dax, are you?
Tracking all our cars on Carvana Value Tracker on all our devices? Yes, Kristen, yes I am.
Well, I've been looking for my phone for...
In Dax's domain, we see all. So we always know what our cars are worth.
All of them?
All of them. Value surge, trucks up 3.9%.
That's a great offer.
I know. Sell?
Sell.
Track your car's value with Carvana Value Tracker today.
First question from a woman called Jane, and she says, my son is 17 and waiting for CBT, and he's been on a list for weeks and weeks and weeks. The thoughts are clearly really awful to him, and it's really heartbreaking to see, but he doesn't want to talk or think about it, and he says the only way he can get through it is by gaming. How can I support him in the meantime?
It's really difficult, isn't it? What is comforting and what becomes a compulsion? Things can become a compulsion for you. So possibly gaming could be.
I think that's a really important point to make to Jane, is that the gaming may distract him from it, but that's not necessarily a great thing. When I don't know why this is any more embarrassing than anything else I've ever admitted, but in my early 20s, a therapist banned me from playing Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because I was obsessed.
Yeah.
I was in my own world, and then I wasn't having intrusive thoughts. And I find now I can do it with like little games where I'm lining up and matching things on my phone.
Yeah. Looking back as a teenager, when I was having an OCD episode, I would watch the same thing over and over again. So there was about a 2-year period where all I did was watch The Office.
Right.
The same 12 episodes of The Office, or the same 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers, because there was a comfort in that I knew what was going to happen. I knew nothing was going to trigger anything in me because I knew them so well. And it would just take my mind off it. But it got to the point where you can't just watch one thing for 2 years.
I also think, to say to Jane, if you can, and I know this is really difficult and all of this is easier said than done, but especially with a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
But if you can get him outside, just get him out for a walk as much as you can, just sort of even if he's not saying anything or
even
talking.
If he's not talking, yeah.
I think that thing of walking side by side, it becomes much easier if he is going to say something because he doesn't feel the pressure because he's not having to look straight at you.
Yeah.
But B, I think there's something tremendously powerful about going outside, breathing in the fresh air and seeing that the world is still turning. And even if you're just going for a walk around your block.
I mean, I live in Wales, and if you see my Instagram, most of the time, especially earlier on when I was very much in the thick of it, I would do a lot of my kind of little video bits and pieces when I was out walking the dog in the green with the sky, even if it was pouring down with rain. But there's something of being connected to the real world when everything else isn't making any sense. But that idea of looking up Just look up from, even if it's for a moment.
Looking up and out as opposed to down
rather
and
than
in.
just, because physically and metaphorically, when I was in the house, I was looking down. I was trying to make myself as small as possible. I didn't want to engage with anything around me. And if you can just go out even for 10 minutes and just look up at the sky and take yourself out of it. It might just be for a second, but you will never regret doing it. It's, even when I think the good thing about having a dog is that they need a walk. You have to go. But I never came back from a walk regretting it. I always came back feeling a bit better, but just in that you've done something, you've achieved something. Even if you're having a really tough time, brush your teeth.
Make your bed.
Have a shower. Because that was the stuff that wasn't accessible to me. When you feel so wretched about yourself, when you're having such horrible thoughts that you think you're a terrible person and a monster, well, you don't deserve to have clean teeth. You don't deserve to have nicely washed hair. And so I didn't. And part of my self-compassion, inverted commas, wasn't going for a massage or going shopping or anything that people think it is. It was having a shower and brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
It was putting on a fresh pair of socks.
Also, Jane, well, we can put this in the show notes. There's an organisation called Mental Health Mates, which I set up, but it's entirely free, and they are walks all over the country for people with mental health issues where they can just get out, come together, walk and talk without fear of judgment. So maybe you could take them on one of those.
That sounds amazing.
Wow.
What's up?
I just bought and financed a car through Carvana in minutes.
You? The person who agonized 4 weeks over whether to paint your walls eggshell or off-white bought and financed a car in minutes?
They made it easy. Transparent terms, customizable down and monthly. Didn't even have to do any paperwork.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Hey, have you checked out that spreadsheet I sent you for our dinner options?
Finance your car with Carvana and experience total control. Financing subject to credit approval.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Now, this one is a really good question from a guy called Charlie. Do you have any advice on managing OCD and being a parent? So Charlie doesn't have kids yet, right? He's suffered with pure O since he was 13. He says, I'm a lot better and continue to try and get more of a grip on it. I want to have children, but I'm terrified the intrusive thoughts would take hold, and I'd be scared of asking for help from therapists for fear people would think I'm a danger to my child.
Yes.
I'm very apprehensive to share this struggle, particularly as I am a man. Any advice?
Charlie, I can't tell you how common it is. And especially, if we talk about something that even women won't talk about because of fear of shame and judgment, then dads who suffer with postnatal mental illnesses, which does happen, postnatal OCD can happen to the dad. They can't talk about it because they're so terrified. And I get a lot of messages from people who say, I don't have kids or I won't have kids because of my OCD.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because sometimes I just want to say back, well, I've done a crappy part of it for you. Like, I hope by being honest and just talking about this, that you'll never feel that alone, because at least there's one person who's talked about it, and that it should never stop you having children and living your life or going for that job. The more you feel it should stop you, the more you should do it.
Yeah.
It's an
maybe
ERP
see it as a
thing.
massive ERP.
Don't just have a load of kids as an ERP exercise. But, because one day when you do have a kid and you'll think, oh, I'm doing it.
Also, Kimberley, I don't know about you, but I have found parenting through OCD and in spite of OCD and almost because of OCD. Like, for me, like you, now my life's work is talking about this stuff because the thought of my daughter having to go through this stuff without any support. Now, it's not about stopping people from experiencing mental illness because we can't do that.
No.
But the idea there's something really beautiful about being able to parent through these things and almost because of them and forcing yourself through. And I have found parenting this is going to sound so woo-woo, but it's almost like reparenting that little version of me who couldn't, but there wasn't any help available, you know, in the 80s and the 90s and couldn't articulate it. So it's not my mum and dad's fault. It's like, I feel like sometimes now, having a child and talking to her about my OCD and what I try not to call it my OCD because it doesn't belong to me. It's a thing. But talking to her about OCD, and there's amazing as well. There's like amazing books out there for kids about OCD, like middle grade fiction for children, so they know what it is.
I think that OCD, you know, we're talking about OCD because that's what's been so present in our lives. I think it's a really transferable skill in that when you learn to live with it and not hate yourself and talk about it and not feel ashamed and just throw light on that really dark corners of the mind, and that we all have those thoughts and that it's part of the human experience, that actually it plays into a load of other areas in your life. It makes you less scared and it makes you more open. And I hope that, you know, as my son grows up, there's nothing that he can't say. There's no mental, the anguish that he can't just articulate to me. You know, when I think about being 8 years old and having an OCD episode that I never told anybody about, that would last for weeks or months. And, you know, I didn't know what it was. I just thought I was different. I thought I had a bit of a mad brain. I didn't understand why I cared so much. That was really difficult. And I think as my son grows up and I see him, if he is like me in that way, that that's not intervene, but just, you'll just there'll be a space for him to go this and me to go, yeah.
I have to say as well, Charlie, what's really interesting is that when I first had my daughter, for the first couple of months, I was like on red alert waiting for the OCD to come in. And what was weird was that because this is something to say, is that there are lots of people that will never have experienced mental illness in their lives. And parenthood is one of the times when it will come in for the first time.
Yes, that happens a lot.
Especially to women. And so I was really expecting to feel absolutely dreadful and for the OCD to kick off. And the weirdest thing was, for the first 3 months of my daughter's life, I had never been so free of OCD. It was like... and actually, we can come on to this, the hormones. I definitely have discovered, and this maybe doesn't relate to Charlie as much, although men have hormones in them as well. But it was like I'm quite progesterone intolerant, which I've discovered only by going through the menopause. And the reason I discovered I was going through menopause was because the OCD came back really badly. And I thought, what the hell's going on? I'm sober. I should know how to control this.
Yes, what's
and
pinning it?
And then I went on HRT, and it was within days. It was like I was having the intrusive thoughts, but I just couldn't connect with them. I was like, whatevs.
Yeah.
But anyway, Charlie, so weirdly, I realised that actually, having had this experience of OCD throughout my childhood, so actually when I had a child, it was like all of the intrusive thoughts that were coming, in a way, I was like, yeah, I know what this is. I knew what it was, so I was more able to handle it. So someone else has got in touch about their daughter is 13 and suffering with OCD. And is it better to give in to the fixations for relief to support people? So is it better to reassure them or continue to try and make them resist, but then risk further stressing them? Now, this is an interesting thing because obviously we've spoken about, stress very much increases the likelihood of OCD.
Yeah,
however,
of course.
that in itself shouldn't be a reason for you to give in to the compulsions. Because you need to be able to experience a bit of the stress.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult, isn't it? I think you have to see where someone is emotionally.
CBT, which stands for Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, is, broadly speaking, what you will be offered if you present with OCD.
Which is what I was offered.
But there's a very specific type of CBT, which is exposure response prevention, which is ERP.
Yes.
Your husband had to be brought in on the ERP and taught how to not reassure you. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well,
just because there are going to be people listening who want to know how to be able to support people.
Yes. So even if we'd have known, I don't think he could have done that in the very early days because I was too poorly for it to go cold turkey that way.
So it's almost like, don't beat yourself up if you find yourself reassuring when someone is very unwell.
When I first started doing ERP, I had this real thing. I got so stuck on it that it wasn't helping me. If I did do a compulsion, then it was ruined. I've done it wrong. I'm not doing it. I'm not progressing. I'm not doing anything. And actually, again, the meta idea is if I did do a compulsion and get it wrong, learning to be okay with that. And that's part of your ERP. And it's like, layers within layers. But when, we were talking earlier about compulsions by proxy. So what happens a lot with people with OCD, and certainly, say, perinatal OCD, because there is a baby there, is getting your partner to give them a bath, getting your partner to change their nappy, getting your partner to push the pushchair in case you accidentally push them into traffic or just let go of the pram. And so you're like, well, I'm not doing the compulsions.
Someone else is.
But someone's doing it for you. You're still trying to shield yourself.
You're avoiding.
And so it's avoiding and reassurance are the two big things. And you have to, and I still have to catch myself now, even though I've come a long way in educating myself about it. It's a sneaky little thing.
I would also say to anyone who's trying to support someone is that it can be incredibly frustrating. So don't shame yourself if you find yourself feeling exasperated with the person you're dealing with. Maybe try and find someone that you can talk to about that exasperation so you're less likely to take it out on the child or the partner or the whoever it is.
Yeah.
And, actually unconditional love is the best thing you can give someone when they're suffering from OCD. My husband, I remember when I thought that maybe someone else was the father of our child, and we were on a baby moon in Barbados and I was 7 months pregnant, and I had to tell him, I had to confess. Confession is another form of OCD.
Yes.
Where I have to tell every thought in my head.
Yeah, that's a compulsion.
To say, this is OCD, isn't it? And so I told him, and he said to me, okay, well, even if it is someone else's, that's fine. I still love you. And I always remember that being like, what? But it was almost like my OCD had nowhere to go after that.
I can imagine that, because the whole hold that your OCD had over you was, if you've done something terrible,
he'll leave.
He's going to leave you and you're going to be left alone with a new baby and no one's going to love you. And it was the same thing, when I was very poorly, it was like, if my family, if my dad, if my in-laws, if the people I love and who love me find out who I really am,
they will go.
They will go, and I will be left in a prison cell or some psychiatric ward alone by myself, and they'll want nothing to do with me.
And nobody will love me.
And slowly, they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. And I still haven't processed really how incredible my husband, he's a kind of burly Welshman and gets very angry at things, and, but the unconditional love and patience he showed for going on the best part of 2.5 years. I don't know how he did it for how little I was giving back, because I was just trying to survive the day and get through the day and not let it win. And I was so focused on that and trying to be a mum, but he didn't stop ever.
For me, the one thing that has made the biggest difference to my life in terms of OCD has been unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Unconditional love from my husband, unconditional love from my therapist.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. And has been learning that I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
That I don't have to be good.
That was it.
That it is okay if I am a bit bad. You mentioned in the main episode about absolutes, black and white thinking. People with OCD find it very difficult to sit in the grey.
Yes.
And for me, the most healing thing I have gone on is when I have intrusive thoughts, I go, that's okay. Everyone has intrusive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to have a moment here. This does not make me a bad person. But also, if I was a bad person, that would be okay.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that we need to reclaim and that we're going to end on, and that everyone else, if you're going to say one thing, say this. I have OCD.
And I am not my thoughts.
I am not my thoughts. I'm just the person who hears them.
I love that.
Episode 10, completed it. Wow, 10 episodes already. God, aren't we good? Let's do it all again on Monday. Hit subscribe, tell a friend how amazing this podcast is, and I'll see you on Monday.